I never needed their approval, or so I told myself, standing in my corner office high above the Seattle skyline. The muted hum of the city filtered through the glass walls, a distant echo of the life I'd built. An email blinked on my screen. It was from my younger sister. Dad lost his job. Mom's medical bills are overwhelming us. I know you've got your own life, but if you can help. A laugh slipped out, dry and hollow. If only they understood. 12 years earlier, I was 16, standing in the cramped living room of our Tucson townhouse. My acceptance letter to the Rhode Island School of Design lay on the coffee table, untouched. My father's face darkened as he read it. Art? That's not a real career, Nadia. He held the letter like it was a dirty napkin. You're throwing your life away on dreams. Grow up. Mom lingered by the window, quiet and distant. She always disappeared into silence when he erupted, leaving me to face the storm alone. I've got a partial scholarship, I said softly, and I've saved. From tutoring, from summer jobs. It's enough. No, you're going into engineering like your sister. End of story. But for the first time, I didn't fold. No. The word shattered something between us. His face flushed red, fists balled at his sides. Then get out. Think you're independent? Prove it. Just don't come crawling back. That night, I stuffed second-hand clothes into a duffel bag. Maria stood in the hallway, wide-eyed. You're really doing this? I have to. I can't live someone else's life. As I zipped the bag, Mom entered quietly. She didn't say much, she never did, but she pressed something into my hand, a worn velvet pouch. Your Aunt Sophia said this was for when the time was right. I think it's time. Inside was a silver pendant and a tiny brass key taped to a folded note. A safety deposit box. I read the letter later that night, holed up in a rundown motel outside Phoenix. Nadia, if you're reading this, it means you've chosen your own path. I'm already proud of you. In that moment, I knew I wasn't going back, not to explain, not to apologize, only to move forward. I always knew you would. Read Aunt Sophia's second letter. The key opens box 132 at Puget Sound Credit Union. Open it when you're ready. Inside, you'll find what you need to begin. Remember, true art isn't about making beauty, it's about recognizing value where others see none. With all my love. Aunt Sophia. The next morning, my hands trembled as I slid my ID across the counter at Puget Sound Credit Union. The box was small. What it held was anything but antique silver jewelry, stacks of pristine documents, and one final letter from Sophia, penned in elegant loops. That's when I learned the truth. Aunt Sophia hadn't just been a collector. She'd been a serious antique dealer in the 1940s, quietly amassing a fortune of rare Art Nouveau and early Art Deco pieces. Take these to Marco Duca at Rain City Antiques. He'll understand their worth. My knees nearly buckled when Marco finished his appraisal, over $430,000 in value. But the real turning point wasn't the number. Marco looked at me carefully, his eyes thoughtful. You've got an eye. Most people never develop that. Ever considered learning the trade? That was the moment. Marco became my mentor, teaching me everything: how to trace provenance, how to spot forged hallmarks, how to whisper bid at auctions and hunt down overlooked treasures at estate sales. I was all in. Come work as Nadia's assistant. Nadia. Maria lowered her gaze. But now, I said, my voice steady and low, now that you've seen my bank account, I'm family again. Suddenly I'm worth your time. My father straightened, slipping into his practiced business tone. We can talk about all this later. Right now, we need to. Stop. I cut in, raising a hand. My voice was cool as steel. Before you say another word, let me show you something. I pressed a hidden button on my desk. Behind me, the massive wall screen flickered to life. File after file appeared, each one damning. Bank statements, property deeds, loan defaults, investment disasters. This, I said, gesturing toward the glowing screen, is everything. Every loan, every bad call, every debt. The total to clean the slate and stabilize it all is $4 million. My father's expression shifted, something like hope flickered in his eyes. Maria stared, caught between disbelief and relief. Mom reached for my hand. I let her touch it for a moment before gently pulling away. I've had that money ready for years, I said. Every time foreclosure threatened. Every time you spiraled, I was watching. Waiting. Waiting for what? Maria whispered. To see if you'd change. If any of you would take responsibility. But you never did. I stood, letting silence stretch until the tension pressed against the glass walls. Instead, you borrowed more, remortgaged the house, blamed bad luck. Crossing the room, I returned to my desk chair. Sunlight struck the Chihuly sculpture behind me, casting fractured color across the floor. Here's what's going to happen, I said crisply. I'll pay every debt. I'll save the house. And I'll set up a trust to keep all of you secure. They gasped, relief tumbling into the room like a tide. I raised my hand again. Silence fell. But there are conditions. The air stilled. First, I looked at Dad. You retire. No more stocks. No more crypto. Just rest. You've earned that, but you've cost enough. He looked away, jaw clenched. Second, I turned to Maria. You're shutting down the Capitol Hill condo project. Then you're enrolling in the music therapy program you abandoned for real estate. A tear slid down her cheek. That dream hadn't been spoken aloud in years. Third, I said gently to Mom, you're finally opening the bookstore near Green Lake. I'll fund it. Mom gasped, hand to her chest. Her dream, shelved for 3 decades. And finally, I said, eyes sweeping across them, we're going to family therapy. Weekly, together, because this isn't just about money. Dad bristled, but Mom reached for his hand. We'll do it, she said softly, all of it. I nodded and pressed the intercom. Jasmine, bring in the contracts. These documents make everything official, I said, passing folders across the desk. Take them, read every line. They nodded, stunned. Dad's hands trembled as he held the paperwork like it might vanish. As they turned to leave, I spoke one last time. And Dad, about what you said 10 years ago, that I'd call when I failed. He turned, guilt etched deep across his face. I never failed, I said quietly, I just succeeded without you. They left in silence. I stood at the window, watching their SUV disappear into Seattle traffic. A moment later, Jasmine appeared with chamomile tea. You okay? She asked. I thought of all the lonely nights, the missed holidays, the doubt, and then I thought of this moment, of peace. I think I finally am, I said, a quiet smile tugging at my lips. The next morning, they came back. Signed contracts, tentative smiles, the weight of a different future between us. It didn't fix everything, decades of silence and hurt don't vanish overnight, but it was a beginning. Dad really retired this time, apologized one morning over coffee. I didn't cry, but something cracked open. Mom opened the Violet Finch, a cozy bookshop in Fremont, tucked between a record store and a cafe. Locals adore it, so does she. Maria shut down the condo project and enrolled in music therapy. Now she teaches at a community center in Ballard. Her laughter is real again. As for me, I kept building, but not in the shadows anymore. No more shrinking, no more hiding wins to protect fragile egos. Because real power isn't proving people wrong, it's proving yourself right. On my desk sits Aunt Sophia's old jewelry box. Inside, a single gold locket with her photo and a note. True art isn't just about beauty, it's about recognizing worth where others see none. She was right. The rarest thing I ever found was my own worth. If this resonates, drop a comment. Have you ever had to walk away from people who didn't see you, or are you still searching for your voice? This story isn't just mine, it's for anyone who's ever been underestimated, dismissed, or told to be realistic. Let's build something together, a community for the dreamers, the builders, the black sheep who became visionaries. I'm not sharing this for pity or praise. I'm sharing it because ambition shouldn't be mistaken for defiance, and self-worth shouldn't require permission. My advice? Stop waiting to be chosen. Choose yourself. To those still in the fight, keep going. The loneliness won't last forever. Your work matters. You matter. And one day, when they finally see what you've built, you won't need their validation. You'll already have your own. Want more stories like this? Subscribe, share, speak your truth. And if you've been holding on to a dream, afraid to say it out loud, this is your sign. You don't need their approval. Only your own. By 19, I'd launched a small online vintage jewelry store. By 23, I opened my first boutique in Capitol Hill. Now, at 26, I own a chain of private antique galleries across the West Coast. My net worth? Just over $14.6 million. And not a single headline bears my name. My family still believed I floated between retail jobs, maybe renting a shoebox apartment somewhere in Spokane. I preferred it that way, low profile, quiet growth. Then Maria's email arrived. Dad lost his job. Mom's drowning in medical bills. If there's anything you can do, even a little. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then picked up my phone. Hey, Maria, bring Mom and Dad to my office tomorrow. Your office? You mean that little consignment place you used to help at? No, I said. My real office, Rainier Tower. I'll text the address. She laughed, unsure. Rainier Tower? Come on, Nadia. You can't just stroll in there pretending. They'll let me in, I said with a smile, glancing out at the skyline stretching wide beneath me. I bought Rainier Tower last spring. Be there at 9 a.m. and tell them to bring every page of their mortgage paperwork. Absentito infacil. The next morning, I stood at my window, the top floor, watching their faded blue SUV pull into the private entrance below. Even from 30 stories up, I could feel their hesitation as a uniformed guard approached, quietly ushering them into the executive elevator, reserved for just a handful of names. A chime sounded. Miss Russo, your family has arrived, my assistant said. Send them in. The door opened. Dad stopped dead in the middle of the room, eyes darting over the walnut floors, the floor-to-ceiling glass, the gilded antiques in museum-quality cases. Mom clung to the doorway, wide-eyed. Maria hovered behind them, blinking like she was trying to clear a mirage. They'd expected a cramped consignment shop, maybe a shared workspace. Not this. Not the original Art Nouveau sculptures, the Art Deco jewelry glinting beneath LED spotlights, not the custom rosewood desk once owned by a Rockefeller, not a panoramic view of Seattle laid out like a quiet empire. Nadia, Mom whispered, what is all this? I smiled gently. My office. Welcome to Russo Fine Art and Antiquities. Dad's face hardened. Confusion turned to indignation. No, you work retail. You live in some shoebox. I've seen your photos, cheap dinners, laundromats. I walked to a nearby case, tapped the glass. Inside, a brooch I'd bought years ago for $700, now valued at $42,000. I'm the founder and CEO of the largest private antique brokerage on the West Coast. Those posts? Staged. A carefully constructed lie. Maria's mouth dropped open. The Rainier Tower belongs to my company, I said, which I own. Silence. Then Dad snapped. You lied to us? We're your family. I didn't flinch. I built this alone, quietly, after you kicked me out, after you told me I'd fail. I nodded to the folder clutched in his hand. Let's talk about your mortgage. The room froze. Dad's anger dissolved into stunned silence. Mom reached out, fingers grazing the polished desk like she needed to feel it was real. Maria just stood there, staring at the original Chihuly sculpture beside my espresso machine. I opened my laptop, clicked into my business dashboard, and slowly turned the screen toward them. Since we're being honest, here's my current balance. $14,236,542. Mom gasped, hand to chest. Dad tightened his grip on the leather chair. Maria's folder slipped from her fingers and thudded softly against the floor, the same sleek portfolio she'd proudly shown off last Christmas after her promotion. This, I said, sliding a thick folder across the desk, is why I asked you here? You're 3 months behind on the mortgage. Foreclosure proceedings have already begun. Maria blinked. Wait, how do you know that? I looked her in the eye. I own a controlling stake in Cascadia Trust, your mortgage lender. I know everything. I turned to Dad. Your risky day trades, Mom's unpaid medical bills, then to Maria, and your Capitol Hill condo flip, it's underwater. The silence that followed was absolute. broken only by the hum of the city beyond the glass. Dad's voice was hoarse when he spoke. You knew we were in trouble and said nothing? I stood, placing my hands on the cool, flawless desk. Do you remember the night you told me to leave? You said, don't come crawling back when you fail. We were trying to protect you, Dad said sharply. No, I said, level and quiet. You were trying to control me. That's not the same. I walked to the window, the skyline bathed in morning light, the Space Needle standing proud in the distance, silent testimony to the life I'd built. 10 years, no help, no support, just a key, a pendant, and a letter from Aunt Sophia. Mom looked up suddenly, confused. Sophia, what did she give you? Faith, I said simply. She believed in me when no one else did. She knew I'd make something real. I turned back to face them. Every holiday, you mocked me, still playing with antiques, Nadia? Well, now the game has changed.